How parents yelling or screaming affects child's learning. Now, most of the time, parents says that only when they yell at their kids, they will take their books and they'll start studying or they'll start learning. But science doesn't agree with it. Science say when parents yell, there is a fear instilled in the child and the fear doesn't allow them to learn. Now, who is correct here? Are parents correct or is science correct? Stay with me till the end of the video and I'm going to promise you it's going to be very informative. Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. I'm Joshna, a teacher, psychologist and a parent. Now the first question is, why do parents yell? Now there are different reasons why do they yell. Could be maybe because their kids are not studying, maybe because they are not respecting, they are not listening to them, or maybe they are not standing up to parents' expectations. So what happens? As per research says that the right time to yell is only when there is an emergency situation where you have to stop a behavior then and there. Like for instance, if your child is running onto the road, you will definitely yell. That's a natural instinct. And when you yell, there is a fear instilled in the child and the child stops and he freezes there. So we can definitely yell in emergency situations. Maybe if someone is going to come and hit me, definitely I will not welcome, but I'm going to yell. Or if I'm seeing someone drowning, definitely I'm going to yell for help. Right? So these are the most emergency situations where we yell. But what are we doing? Just because our children are not listening, we are yelling at them. So what happens when we are screaming at them? When parents scream, there's a fear instilled in the child. Child realizes there is fear in them, and immediately what happens? There's a lot of mechanism which goes in the body. There is something called as amygdala in the brain. It's in the center of the brain which identifies the threat. खतरे की घंटी जो बोलते हैं ना, उसको identify करता है. So it will temporarily shed the blood flow to different parts of the brain, and it alerts the nervous system saying that either you have to fight with the situation or you have to run away from the situation. And before all this, there are a lot of stress hormones like cortisol which release in the body in immense amount, because of which there is lot of blood flow, or there's blood flows with lot of pressure. There's heart pumps like anything and you breathe very heavy, and there is a different flow. Now the flow of blood changes from the heart, it goes to limbs, it goes to arms and legs, because here we have to run away from the situation or we have to fight. For both of this, what we need is the physical strength. Getting my point? Now if you have observed, most of the time when parents are yelling at kids, small kids start hitting their parents. Parents yell more at them because they are not able to understand why the child is hitting. Because the child went into fighting mode. He's defending himself because he's feeling his father is a threat. Because he's yelling to defend himself, has adopted that fight mode. And also you see that when your children are grown up and you're asking them to study, sometimes they run away from your house or they run and hide in their bedrooms. So it is running away mechanism or flight mechanism. In psychology, we say freeze, fight or flight. Run away from the situation. So either kids fight with us when they feel that we are a threat, or they run away from that situation. Sometimes even children who cannot run away because उनको पता है वो भाग जाएंगे तो again you will get them back. So what they do is they just give you some temporary reasons like my stomach is paining, my head is paining. They give those kind of escape reasons to defend themselves. Now you understood what happens in the body, what mechanism is happening. But now you will ask me a question, what it has to do with learning. Learning क्यों नहीं हो पाता है? Now learning इसलिए नहीं हो पाता है because I just told you some time back, if you recollect, there is something called as amygdala which is stopping the blood flow to few parts of the brain. Now that few parts of the brain is cerebral cortex. Cerebral cortex is the one which where thinking happens, logic happens, and reasoning happens, and decision making happens. So all this cognition happen in cerebral cortex. So what happened here? There is no blood flow, so the cerebral cortex is shut down, and now you're yelling your children to study, to learn something. So when they sit, what happens when they are learning? The learning process has to reach the brain. The brain has to process it. The brain has to store it and retrieve whenever we want. But this is already shut down. So learning doesn't happen. मैं जो भी कर रही हूँ process नहीं हो रहा और मुझे back आ रहा नहीं. So when there is no process happening, there is no retrieving, nothing happens. So when you yell, there is no learning happening. Yelling is happening only at emergency situations, as I said, but here, for this temporary reasons, for just to study or not listening, because they're not listening, we are yelling at them, and we are making this also as like an emergency situation, whereas this is just a perceived emergency. So the brain will not be able to differentiate between a real emergency and a perceived emergency. So in a real emergency, all this mechanism happens. So there is lot of stress hormones which will get released. But these stress hormones need not be released in this case, but the brain does that. So we have to create a stress-free environment for our children, but unknowingly, we parents, by just yelling, we are creating an environment where there is full of stress in them. Hope in this video I made it clear what happens when parents are screaming. In my next video, I'll give you tips of how not to yell. But for this, I want each and every one of you, if you're interested in your children, please do write a comment saying that, Joshna ma'am, yes, we need tips for not yelling. Hope this video is informative. Thank you so much for watching. Stay blessed and happy parenting.